Hey guys, it's Arlessa, and I wanted to come at you with another video, another pop-up, because I've been having a lot of these questions come up with my clients and my readings, and especially with like my friends and family. They're like, hey Arlessa, I've got some attachments going on. I'd have these friendships or a relationship or whatever the connections are that are happening. And a lot of people are asking, like, how do I know when to cut off a connection, an attachment? And how do I know when it isn't serving me anymore for my best good? When is it time to go our separate ways? So I wanted to just point out a few things that can kind of grab our awareness, because sometimes in the moment with our emotions we don't really understand what's happening, right? Because sometimes we have trauma bonds with people. Sometimes we have unhealed parts of us and we don't want to upset anybody, or maybe someone has been in our life for so long and we have so much history that it could be a relationship or a connection that is one of the only consistent ones you've had in your life, but ultimately the connection isn't really serving you, or you're not happy, or you're not being treated the right way. So being brave and making the decision that's best for you is not always easy, right? When we have to let people go. So a few things to look for whenever you're trying to decide if this is something that will benefit you or not, right? Is this something that will benefit you both? Because ultimately, let's be honest, when you have a connection with somebody and there's friction, or maybe they're not treating you the best way, and in turn you can't treat them the best way, or maybe there's some disconnect and you just are not able to communicate no matter what you try. There's a lot of different things that could be going on. So when we meet resistance behind a connection, then what we're being asked to do is to take a second and really think about what's going on with that connection. So when a really good sign that a connection has kind of run its course is you notice that the relationship or the connection is based on a pattern. So you cycle in and out of each other's lives. So say that there's a pattern of behavior that happens and you maybe lose touch or don't, and then y'all come back around, and then that pattern happens again, and then you get space or whatever, and then you come back around, and then the pattern just keeps creating. So if your experience with somebody is the same experience being regurgitated over and over and over again, and it's not evolving, it's not growing, and it's not moving past that stage, then that's a good sign that the relationship or the connection has run its course. If your nervous system and your body also tell you a lot about your connection. So if you have a connection that there is always anxiety about whenever you have to have certain conversations, if there's a connection that is always friction when you try to communicate, and it's always like that, and maybe y'all just aren't matching and aligning, but you keep trying to make it work, or you keep trying to push it, and because of your history or because of certain things, you kind of allow things, you become more patient. I don't know if it's necessarily patience. I think we learn to tolerate certain things, but it is a self-worth journey. So in these connections, if people aren't treating us the way we treat them, or if people are not treating us the way that we deserve, or treating us just even like a human being, sometimes the bare minimum is something that is so hard for people to give, but it's so easy for them to require. So you need to look at kind of like the supply and demand of that connection. Are you putting out more? Are you giving more? Are you there for that person more? What are you pouring all of the water out of your own cup into this person's cup and then not being refreshed? Or say something goes on and they're not able to step up to the place that you need them and where you were. Now, although I do like to highlight that we can't expect ourselves out of other people, we should have an understanding of our own self-worth, and we should always have a line that the people around us are going to be willing to toe, because that's the mutual respect of the connection. Okay. And I know that this kind of gets harder whenever you have, like, say, marriages or children involved and there's other people involved. I did want to highlight that in that situation, you're not fooling anybody in the long run when it comes to staying with somebody for the kids, or staying with somebody for a purpose that does not align with your happiness. And I understand that a lot of people are like, well, our kids come first. They do, absolutely. So if your children come first, then you should understand that you must come first also when it comes to your happiness and pouring into your own cup and choosing relationships that also do the same. Because our environment and the people and our surroundings or everything around us, our children pick up on that energy. So if we're unhappy, they're going to pick up on that. And then that's going to be the frequency and flow of emotion that is always around them. Then they're going to adapt to that emotion, and then they're going to start to display that emotion because that's what they learn and that's what they see. And then they're going to think that dysfunction is normal, and until they see another family that maybe operates a different way, and then that could cause confusion. So guys, always remember that every connection that you have needs to be benefiting you in a positive way, and then you also benefiting that connection in a positive way. It's give and take, okay? And when someone is taking a lot more than they're giving, and you're giving a lot more than you're able to take, and you're just running on empty, that's a good sign that you need to take a good look at that connection and decide whether it is a connection that will get you further. Are you going to be able to grow? Are you going to be able to learn? Are you just in the same space, right? If there's a connection that is not evolving and it just keeps getting worse and seems like there's never a solution, then it's a good sign that that connection has run its course. So be thankful for the energies and the emotions and the connection that it brought during its time. Cherish that. Thank that person in your own way. Maybe not have to do it personally or whatever, or like outwardly. You could do it inwardly, whatever is most comfortable, whatever you ending a cycle, however you need to go about it, right? Be sure that you're honoring yourself. Be sure that you're honoring the experience with that person, because if it wasn't delightful, then you learn something. If it was delightful, then you learn something. And sometimes, we have all these good moments and these bad moments mixed in. So be grateful for the love and the connection that you shared for the time being. And if it wasn't all love, then be grateful for the chaos that it caused, because you wouldn't be seeing things the way that you are now and considering whether you should walk away if you haven't started to grow and start to realize your own self-worth. So guys, I hope this video gave you some sort of point to consider. It seems like a lot of people are having a lot of friendships and connections and relationships that are coming to an end, and they're being called to be brave and make these decisions. And that's because there's a big collective shift happening. Right now, we have a collective shift, and a lot of the things that no longer serve us, a lot of the connections that no longer serve us are finding their way out of our lives. And when we try to hang on to them, things get worse, and things, it's like, oh, okay, well, this connection is like a soft nudge, and when the soft nudge doesn't happen, then the big shove off the cliff happens, and then it's a little bit more chaotic. But through chaos we learn, and that's not the coolest, because who wants to deal with chaos? It sucks. But through suffering we rise. I'm not saying, yes, give me all the suffering so I can rise. I'm saying that through the suffering and through the confusion, and when you're trying to figure these things out, guys, just be self-aware, be gentle with yourself, and face those hard truths. Sometimes truth is really hard for us to see within ourselves, and what we allow, and the things that don't serve us. Sometimes it's hard to let go of that, but things will only get worse, and that is another good sign. When things just keep getting worse and worse and worse, it's time to say, you know what, it's time for me to create a new path, and it's time for me to maybe cut off this connection, maybe end this cycle. Because if you don't end a cycle that keeps coming around, then it's always going to be that, and it's just going to be draining, and you're never going to grow and evolve, at least not with that connection. So guys, have a good Tuesday, and yeah, you got this, man.